All right, so I was joking earlier, this is the We're Not in Brazil Club meeting, so thanks everybody for coming tonight. I think this should be fun. And the battle plan is we're gonna chat for a little bit, and then we'll open it up to audience Q&A. So start noodling on what you'd like to ask Bob and John. Very, very quick introduction, although I'm sure a lot of people in the room are familiar. Bob Bowman, President and Chief Executive Officer of MLB Advanced Media, the interactive media and internet company of MLB. One of the more interesting trivia bits of your bio, which I didn't realize, is I knew that you, prior to your life at ITT, served as treasurer for the state of Michigan, but I didn't know you were the youngest state treasurer in the nation at the time of your appointment.
Back when Michigan was a territory.
And I'll bet you don't miss that job now. And then John Kosner, Executive Vice President, ESPN Digital and Print Media, which is a huge empire, ESPN the magazine, the website, Grantland, which is a favorite of mine, oversees their relationships with Facebook, Twitter. Maybe you've heard of those guys. So we were talking a little bit about what is the second screen. So maybe before we go into nitty gritty, maybe that's a good thing to open up with. What exactly are we talking about when we say second screen?
John?
So, and good evening, everybody. One of the misconceptions, we believe, is that there's some sort of singular experience called the second screen. Second screen is really about the things that you want to do while you're watching television. And the truth is you can do it on more than one screen, but what's unique is that each of us want to do different things. And so there's a bunch of activity that may be relevant to what you're watching on TV, but probably not. You could be checking your email, you could be on Facebook, you could be on Twitter, you could be checking stats on Major League Baseball's website.
Let's stop there. That's what you should be doing.
So the idea of this sort of iconic second screen experience, we believe is incorrect. That it is about trying to figure out what people want to do at that moment, providing fantastic experiences for them, and that can really run the gamut.
Bob?
Yeah, I mean, obviously we think the phone is the first screen. It's the screen that's with you the most. You use it the most, you look at it the most. You spend 3 or 4 times as much time with your phone than you do with any other screen in your house. So it's empirically obvious and trite to say that the phone is the first screen. But I think what you're trying to say is there a way we can link 2 screens together, and the more important one being the TV, we link it together. As John correctly noted, maybe, maybe not. I think the bigger question is, why should we? We've got massive amounts of content out there. If I own a network that has 65 different channels, I'd rather deliver 2 of those channels rather than concentrating on over-delivering 1. And so I think in a content-rich world where we live, in a device-rich world where we live, we ought to treat every screen separately, every experience separately, and not kill ourselves trying to make the 2 of them always be related to each other. The person's gonna do what he or she wants to do. We ought to give him or her the best content we can on the screen when they're using it the way they want to use it.
So who's getting this right? Who out there, whether it's in sports or out of sports and other media, is doing things with this concept and your consumer's behavior that you think is worth stealing or worth noting?
John?
Well, obviously the man to my right is doing a lot of the things really right. And the story of baseball is kind of fascinating because if someone asked you 15 years ago or so who was going to lead sports in innovation and really drive the development, very few of us would have said it would be Major League Baseball. But baseball is kind of perfect for it because of all the stats, games played all day long, the interest that people have in the players. And from the inception, they set up their product to reflect the fact that people would look at it on more than one screen. The other one that's obvious is Twitter. Twitter has really changed the experience, especially for those of us who are in the media, has really changed the experience and has raised the expectation that we can get information at that second about anything that we care about.
Right.
Yeah, I would echo Twitter. I'd start with ESPN's doing virtually everything right, and that's not a joke. I mean, anybody who doesn't think ESPN's a worldwide leader in sports just isn't paying attention. They are, and we look at them. They're our partners, they're our competitors. We couldn't ask for better partners. And we couldn't ask for more formidable competitors. We wish they were even better partners and not quite so formidable on the competition side. But going to Twitter.
And we'll work on that.
Yeah, I appreciate that. That's what we're here for tonight. But going to the Twitter side, I mean, if you run a consumer business, a consumer-facing business, and by the way, we're all in it. We're all in the D2C business now. It's not called over the top. I don't know what that means. Direct to consumer, we're all in it. No matter what business you're in, the consumers use your product. Ultimately, they will tell the world what they think of that product. So you're all in the direct to consumer business today, thanks to Twitter and others. But Twitter, I go to Twitter every day. I don't tweet. John tweeted before he came here today. I don't tweet, but I go to Twitter. I want to find out what people think of our product or this game or that player or this or that or ESPN. I will find out. It's real names of people saying real things. So however they came up with it, whoever did, they're geniuses, because it is the go-to place to find, after the New York Times, to find out what's going on in the world.
It is
by the way, the New York Times blog during the Tonys, fabulous. The best out there.
I had nothing to do with it.
But
Thank
whatever, somebody must have, but it was really good.
It is real-time customer service. Right. And for Bob, with the MLB.TV product, which some number of hundreds of thousands of people subscribe to, that's the way they can find out to the second if there's a blackout issue, problem with a stream or whatever. We used to get calls to our customer service line and find out about an hour later. Now it's just instantaneous.
I'd love to know who still calls the customer service line. It's like,
plenty of people.
Really?
Thousands and thousands of people. They tweet, they call, they post, they tweet, they call, they post. And
then they comment on our website. And
it is what it is. I mean, you're frustrated.
Right.
We're all frustrated. People who don't listen to the customers don't have them for long.
So with all of this digital stuff happening, for lack of a better term, why is sports a fundamentally different content beast? Because it is one of the few areas, at least with TV, where live still matters, where there is, the World Cup is a great example. It's not, yes, some people will DVR games and that's happening, but as a way we consume it, it seems like it's different than, say, Mad Men reruns or the finale.
It has three really key facets, among others. One, as you said, it's live. Second, it's personal. Bob's favorite baseball team and mine are probably different. And it's also inherently social. So you have all of these things coming together. The key addition to it, though, in the last few years has been the growth of mobile devices, led by many companies, including baseball, which I believe has served to only accelerate all of these developments.
And I think those are all right. And I would add that almost every live contest has a narrative. We play 15 live games a day, every day, and that's one of the reasons why we were able to build a mobile strategy around our game, because our game is so well suited, as John noted. But every game has a narrative. Now, the narrative may not bust through the national into the national discussion, but it will break through to fans, because there is a story around every game. Certainly, there's a story around the World Cup en masse, but every game is going to have a narrative. And whether you're having to be a reporter for a great institution like the New York Times, or a movie maker, or a documentary maker, or just a sitcom or a drama writer, you need a narrative, and sports provides it almost without trying. Every game has a narrative, and people love that story.
And it's the only thing you have to see live. Even we live in a golden age of television programming, but almost all those programs you can watch at your convenience. But sports, if you don't watch the NBA Finals tonight, then it doesn't have the same value to you the next day.
And it's amazing to me that technology has done nothing to the don't tell me phenomenon in sports. When somebody sees a game before you and you haven't.
That's except for NBC and the Olympics.
Exactly.
Wow. I'm only going to praise partners tonight. Kosner's going to do whatever. Feel free to tweet that out right now.
Little Olympic trash
Let's just pause and let people start tweeting what Kosner just said.
Fabulous. So what does all this look like 5 years out from now? How much of this behavior do you think is going to stick, and then how much do you think will change, and how does that affect what you guys are doing?
I kind of like our order. John?
It's very difficult and dangerous to speculate what 5 years, because all of us see incredible changes just in a year. What I would throw out is that we're going to be talking about second, third, and fourth screens by the time we get to maybe even a year from now. Wearables are going to come out en masse this year. At the Apple Developers Conference, some of the developers were talking about, if Apple comes out with a watch, they're specifically talking about difference in behavior if you go like this versus if you go like this. Different programs, there'll be different programming to different parts of a watch. So the ability to take your content and deliver it to whatever devices people want is going to be part of the future. We believe the value of sports is only going to increase, and it's also going to become more global in nature. seeing, speaking of NBC, the growth of the EPL.
Absolutely.
But to me, this is a positive story. NBC has done a fantastic job on the EPL. That's a property that got, it was on ESPN, but fairly modest ratings. They have a whole national marketing campaign built around the EPL. That's new behavior. You're going to see more of that.
I guess it's obviously dangerous to speculate, but I would only say two things. One is my daughter was born in 1994, the same year as the web. The internet's been around for decades and decades. But the web is just now almost 20 years old. And you don't recognize it today. No one would. And so in 5 years, which is 25% of the life of the web, we won't recognize it. But one thing's for certain, those people born in 94, first of all, they don't call it new media. If you go to any conference calling it new media, do not pay your $700, do not go. It's not new media, it's just what it is. And they are gonna run the world, and so everything's gonna, if it's not on a screen, it will not be watched, read, shared, or done anything. You need to make it available and let them share it, because that's what they're gonna do. If you don't have a strategy for on a mobile device, you don't have a strategy, and that will just be, it's what's obvious today, it won't even be discussed later on. And I would say also, if we could define nirvana, we all create content in some fashion, and now you tell me I can deliver it 24/7 to every corner of the globe with something that takes a battery or a plug to any fan, any customer, anytime I want on a device. I mean, my goodness, think of the days where it used to be 6 hours of programming on a TV and that was it. So for content creators, it is absolutely going to be a great world for the next decade.
I guarantee you in 5 years, they will not call it social media. One of the little bugaboos I have is you walk down the street, no one is talking about becoming social. These things are just activities that people do, and the best of these networks take a real-life activity and make it come to life in a fantastic way. But you're seeing the explosion of Instagram, Pinterest. There are any number of different social networks that will spring up. You can make an argument for baseball fans and for sports fans that MLB.com and ESPN do some of the same things. That's clearly just going to be part of people's behavior.
We were talking a little bit about video games, which is an industry that has hugely impacted sports. I think there's, Madden, World Cup, I think there's a whole new host of fans who've introduced that sport and those athletes in a very different way because of video games. And I know MLB has been very aggressive about interactive. And how does that industry play into what fans' expectations are of both of these, huge sports properties?
We switch the order? I mean, we've got 3 birdies and a par. Why would we switch the order?
Because you're the master of video games.
I'm hardly the master of video games. I mean, first of all, it introduces sports and anything else, maybe some things that are less terrific to kids at a young age. Easy to use, unbelievable graphics. And for those of the sports industry, it's on a screen. It's got to be on a screen to be real for a lot of the kids today. And if it's video, video on a screen is what they're looking for. So I think that's what video games do. They are so good and so clever and so smart, which they have to be to compete. They're competing with a live sporting event because that's the alternative. And I think it's readily available to play against your friends. So it's all the things John said. It's sort of live because you're playing it live. It's social and you're very passionate about it. So video games in general are really good for sports because it introduces a different way to enjoy sports, sometimes a way to learn a sport. For these kids. And ironically, I think that screen, which we saw what Microsoft did yesterday, sort of pivoting away from the entertainment center of the Xbox back to a game console, it actually, those who are gamers want it to be a really great game console, and that may be a screen that they're going to continue to use as a game console and not turn it into an entertainment center. It may be that every screen has a specific purpose, and we want the iPad for this or the tablet for that. We want our Samsung phone for this. We want our gaming device for that. And there's going to be, as John said, 4 or 5 screens that we're going to do different things with when we want to do different things.
Like a one-person NORAD, just
right,
surrounded.
One-person NORAD. That's what I was going to say next. I mean, one person. Yeah.
It does,
you own that.
In your business and ours doing news, these developments have radically changed things.
Very quickly.
Absolutely. How you would consume information or how you think about your job being, say, a New York Times reporter is much, much different now, right, than it was a few years ago.
And what do your answer? You're not off the hook.
Well, my answer is so much of it now is about notifications and alerts. Finding, we subscribe to the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, and New York Post, but the amount of time I'm spending with the physical newspaper is less and less every every year. Typically now for the New York Times, I'll get headlines and news the evening before. I know what David Carr has written before I wake up on Monday morning. That's new and different behavior, and it competes in an incredibly complicated environment.
So, question, when you watch a baseball game or a sporting event, I find sometimes now it's the opposite, where I just shut down. I just want, especially if I'm at the actual stadium. How many screens do you have? Like, how do you balance that?
It's fascinating you bring it up, especially you bring it up because we're so obsessed about the amount of information that we can deliver to you. But sitting and watching, say, the Academy Awards or the Yankees play the Red Sox with a beautiful big picture and a pristine screen and graphics that only come in that are relevant is really joyful. In certain ways, that's why phones are so powerful. You can choose to accent that experience if you want to. And at ESPN, they've steadily begun to take graphics off of the TV screen after going through a period of time where it looked like we were on the verge of being Bloomberg.
Or VH1 pop-up videos, remember those?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're going to open it up. I'm sorry. Do you even...
I have nothing to add. I mean, I feel like I'm home already.
So we're going to open it up to audience question and answer. Throw your hand up in the air. There are people with mics circulating.
I think you do something like that, $800 million in revenue directly. Isn't there more money to be made when some other media property wants your stuff as a loss leader to build their business?
Yeah, perhaps. But those of us who are trained at Goldman Sachs understand the phrase long-term greedy. And if you own the content, you're playing long ball. You're going to own it for your life. And so you don't want to. You want to make sure you own the customer relationship, because there's so many other things to do. We sell 75 million tickets a year. Somebody who might watch MLB.TV and we see that they watch 3 Yankee games in a week, they might want a Yankee ticket. And the ability, you let someone get between you and your customer to your peril. And so while, yeah, we could probably sell it for a multiple of that, but that's what the company's worth. I mean, that's the same as if MLB.com were public, you'd see all that value there. And I don't know how many several billions of dollars MLB.com would be worth. But I advise everyone to do it themselves if they can, because you want to know who your customers are, you want to know what they are doing, and in the end, a direct relationship with your customer will drive the highest value for your organization.
Per what Mary asked before, if you want to think about a difference today versus 5 years from now, the value of what Bob is doing with his customer base, understanding data, organizing systems, may not be as readily apparent today. It's going to be increasingly important in 5 years, where only the great companies are going to be able to do that and will have disproportionate value with their customer base. So, I'm not using your app.
What app? Quick question. So, you hear a lot of they'll go unnamed, but the second screen companies will say, during the commercials is the favorite time to use the second screen. Do you see that as something that's a problem for ad revenue going forward?
I don't. A lot of this is there's more and more targeted advertising coming on these different screens. You need to figure out how the audience wants to receive that. Just taking over their screen with an ad. And something that's slow to develop, you only have so much time between innings or to break to decide what you want to do, and it's very, very individual. So those who are creating second screen apps, and some of them are quite good, they represent part of the environment. I don't think they're the ultimate solution, though.
Yeah, I'd go one step further. Again, I think there's no place. Again, you can build them second screen apps that relate to the TV the content on the TV. I think that's, in my view, in the long run, a fool's errand. But I think actually the fact that we're doing other things on the second and third screen, the number of screens open in a house at any given time are n+1, where n equals the number of people in the house. That's the minimum number of screens that are open for everyone over the age of 10. I think actually, the fact that we now have a second or a third screen open, a tablet as well as a phone, makes it more likely we'll stay on the couch because we're busy doing something else unrelated to what's going on in the TV. TV sort of background, we're sort of keeping up with it in our view, but now commercial comes on, you're still finishing an email, you're reading Kosner's tweet, you're trying to figure out what's going on, but you're not leaving the couch. So I actually think that the ability to sell ads, I mean, first of all, you should be on digital media as well, because you don't know what they're going to do, but I think TV ads will increase in relevance as more screens are open, because people are less likely to leave because they're doing something else.
Hi, with all the activity across different platforms, What is your common denominator for measuring performance and engagement?
Daily active uniques. Bob and I talk about this a lot. There are a lot of metrics out there. It's an industry that talks a lot about monthly uniques, which for us is a fairly useless metric to demonstrate
Which
real
is why,
health.
of course, it's the one that we all use.
Yeah, right, yeah.
What's bigger?
Daily active uniques, the amount of time people come, those are your truly valuable customers. Is the difference between doing a really good job and not. So we look at that constantly. That's a big one.
For example, you might see some sites that are really good at search, and they do 40 million uniques in a month, but those 40 million people come once because they heard something, they searched, they went to the site, they never knew they were on the site. I'm not going to mention one of these blog sites by name, but they get exactly 40 million uniques and 40 million visitors in a given month. So the reach is 40 million. The likelihood of seeing an ad or getting an impression if you're an advertiser is 0. It's not greater than 0, it is 0. You have no chance of seeing an ad. As opposed to, say, ESPN, where they'll have the same, they have more than 40 million uniques, but they'll have the same 40 million uniques, but the total visitors, another way of saying it, will be 250 million, because those uniques will each come on average 6 times that month. Yeah. So you have 6 times the likelihood of someone seeing an ad. And yet, in our space, we look at uniques as the reach, as the driving factor. It's asinine. Which is why we do it. It makes no sense to us. And hopefully over time we can convince advertisers as they leave one screen and come to our screen that this is what they should look. Reach is important because you want to make sure you can get to the right demographic. But unless they come back repeatedly during a month, they're never, ever going to see your ad.
And
ever.
again, you know, at the Apple conference, I'm sure Google will cover it later this month, the concept of continuity, how these screens work together, you're going to see much, much more in that. Certainly for sports like baseball, that's a fantastic. You know, you're looking at your phone on the subway, you get home, and then it works. The other thing that's really changed is, to me, the ability to basically take video off of a device and put it on your TV set. To look at your TV set is essentially a big monitor. That's brand new behavior, and it enables fantastic products that exist in a mobile environment to be ones that you watch on TV as well.
So, gentlemen, we're getting the hook. But thank you both so much.
Thank you.
Very
Thank you,
informative.
man.
Thank you.
Thank you.